Good morning, Les.
Good morning, David.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you know what? It's always good to see you because we get to tease each other, right?
Yep. And we always get to challenge each other. I read this article this morning again called The Seed of Our Undoing. And it's written by Dr. Daniel Wegner, who's a famous psychologist back in the 70s and 80s. And unfortunately, he passed away in 2013. And I've talked to him a few times, super nice guy, but he's one of the pioneers on this whole work on thought suppression, obsessive thought patterns, and that type of thing. And he, Dr. Penny Baker, and Dr. Joshua Smythe were pioneers in this field.
Yeah.
And he wrote an essay called The Seed of Our Undoing. And I remember reading it years ago. He wrote it in 1999. And he pointed out that in Greek tragedy, the hero always takes himself down consistently. And he goes,
Hmm.
why is that? And it turns out it's called the ironic effect. And we know the obvious that we try not to think about something, you think about it more.
Yep.
But what I really get out of the article this morning when I read it again is when you try to think about something, you think about it less. So in Greek tragedy, it's the most well-intentioned person who wants to be a good person actually starts the seed that eventually becomes their undoing because you want to be a good person, you're well-intentioned, you want to do great things in life. But ironically, that's a conscious construct, but the unconscious brain actually takes you to the opposite direction. And this is
Yeah.
a universal experience. And I'm going to jump into the story, we'll discuss it in a second, but the only thing you can do is that thought suppression is deadly and you can express it to somebody else, which is okay. But there's a tremendous amount of work that will be discussed in detail later on expressive writing. You simply write down the thoughts you're trying to express, problem solved. It's that
Yeah.
simple, or is it
Yeah.
not?
Well, I think it's simple because you're cool the way you say it, so makes everything look simple, right? So, but the reality is, David, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, because I think when people put thoughts down on paper, they're still trying to get rid of it, just not to deal with it. And I like what you said a couple of days ago, or was it last week? They said, is the expressive writing when you're feeling caught up in something, suppressing, as you said a few seconds ago, not a good thing. No bueno, right?
Right.
And I think I just want to do one link here and then come back to that comment. It's no bueno because what you suppress, what you don't express,
Right.
gets impressed in the body. And
Right.
so thought suppression not only plays havoc in our minds and wasted energy, but it also turns up physically, many, including myself, my patients. And I think sometimes when people are trying to do interventions, they're trying to get rid of it. But I really like what you said, which you nailed it, is most of our interventions are meant to get you some distance and to kind of gently expose you to it and say, look, there's a new way to relate to this versus the push pull.
Well, you mentioned a therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. And the thing about mental control is why do we need control? Because we don't like the thoughts, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
but again, ironically, the thoughts that we don't like are the ones that come blasting into our brain. And that's why we know we'll talk more about threat versus safety.
Hmm.
But unpleasant thoughts are a threat. They go to the same part of the brain as physical threats and they're processed the same way, but we can't escape our thoughts. So every human being has this problem. Now, some people are really excellent at suppressing to the point where but unfortunately, physical symptoms show up. You can't get away with this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, a great example is a couple of nights ago when I was not wanting to deal with my frustration over a phone call, and I started to develop tension headache. And that moment, I caught it, and I was suppressing my thoughts. As I was on the phone call, I did a quick writing, ripped it up, and it shifted. But then I came back to it to notice the sensation. So I wasn't trying to escape from it, just trying to get a breather from it and validate that something was bugging me.
Well, the reason why expressive writing is an interesting solution because, okay, the solution should be to give up the need for mental control,
Yeah,
but you can't do that
yeah,
in a way,
yeah,
right? I mean, we have a need to not have unpleasant thoughts. That's not going to go away. And the thoughts, you can't really transform these thoughts into pleasant thoughts.
yeah.
And then, so you can't do that because that's another mental construct,
It is.
right? And so the unconscious brain processes about 20 million bits of information per second. The conscious brain processes 40. And so it's a complete mismatch.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
what's fascinating about this article is that you cannot get rid of the need for mental control. These thoughts are never going to be pleasant. And that's why simply writing them down, it's just an exercise, by the way. This is
Yeah.
not, so the key issue to the writing reason why people tear these up Is one of my pain specialists pointed out, if you decide to hold onto your thoughts, you hold onto your pain. Because people
Mhm.
want to write these things down, they want to analyze them, but
Yeah.
you're really working on these thoughts and even making them worse by trying to analyze these issues. They're not issues, they're just thoughts.
Yes, and that is the point. So I practice something called ACT, right? As you mentioned, acceptance and commitment therapy. Listen, we teach you that when a thought shows up or an emotion or physical sensation, just kind of notice it as if you're watching fishies. You don't have to do what it says. You don't have to believe what it says. You just have to go like, huh, I notice I'm having a thought. And that's a nice way to get some distance. And the other way, as you mentioned, is expressive writing to get some distance, drop into your breath and go like, all right, something needs to shift in here. Because often I think you were talking about pleasers or forget the word you just used. But when we are so nice, we sometimes try to not upset someone. But in not upsetting someone and being nice, we upset ourselves. And
I guess it's
so
not a problem with you and I because you don't even try to be nice to me.
what? You know how many expressive writing tools I have to do when I get done? No, I'm kidding.
Right. So I'm your psychologist. So yeah, go ahead and express yourself, Les. That's good.
Remember, I get paid to listen to you.
Oh my goodness. um, yeah, my wife pointed out that there's no danger of me becoming a listener. That's not going to happen.
That's all right. You know what? We have something called ACT, where I just accept the fact that this is who you are.
But
All right.
but I mean, think what the world would be like if you put this simple tool right into first grade preschool and just
Yeah.
write. If you're frustrated or anxious, just write it down. And it's incredible how powerful this process is. And people do the craziest things in life, and it's exactly the opposite of who they want to be. So
Yeah.
they want to be good people, and they do things that they're not doing well. I mean, they're doing it badly. And ironically, it's the most well-intentioned people that have this problem.
Yep.
People that are sociopaths don't filter very much, and it's not as much of a problem from them.
Correct. And just to kind of link this to those who suffer from anxiety and chronic pain and other conditions, and what we want to make sure you understand this, is it's so intriguing that a lot of my patients, I would say close to 95, if not 98, but a very high number, is that they tend to be perfectionistic,
Right.
pleasers. They tend to, do more for others and then get really pissed off when people don't reciprocate. I also have pleasers who kind of sell their soul for the sake of being loved or being accepted or being said, good boy, good girl.
Right.
I know that sounds condescending, but that's literally inside of us and so what happens is we please, 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 and we suppress, suppress, suppress. That
Right.
garbage has to go somewhere. And then when it shows up, we tend to be overwhelmed with it.
Right. No, you hit that nail on the head because, again, you want to be a nice person, you want to please, right? There's nothing wrong
Right.
with that.
Yeah.
Right? What's wrong with that?
I know. Your
Hey,
wife told me I need to be nicer to you, so I'm kidding. Let me
but
fix
now I
the
have,
okay.
so I don't have to do expressive writing for the day, right?
Apparently, I
I
have to.
guess we just took care of it.
So yeah, there you go.
Okay, well, this is a topic we'll be going into detail for at least another 2 weeks, maybe longer if the topic demands it, because this is very, very deep. And honestly, at one point, I started a nonprofit to try to bring that expressive writing right into the school system. Why
Yeah,
not? It's part of the human existence. It's the way the brain works. It's the most basic level of consciousness, and it's such a simple solution to it.
yeah.
So Les, thank you very much. And again, I'll remind the world that you can find this aria at the on YouTube. He has
Yep.
lots of calming mindfulness meditation exercises. He also has a thing called Remedy. What is it, Les?
Yeah, remedy pain. So you can go to the browser and type in or Google remedypain.co,
Okay.
and you should be able to find me.
And then my work is at Back in Control, a surgeon's roadmap out of chronic pain. Turned out the mental pain is a bigger problem than physical pain. I actually didn't anticipate that when I started this process. And
Yeah.
then I have a new process called the DLC Journey at the docjourney.com, which has been much more efficient pathway through this maze that we're working on.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow. And again, I don't remember exactly tomorrow's topic, but it's still more on the obsessive thought patterns, phantom brain pain. And it's
Yep.
really something I think is really important. So anyway, Les, have a great day.
Yeah.
All right.
David, you too, and the audience. Have a great day.